is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers Without Filters podcast, episode 61. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight, me and Joseph have been on these Corona seltzers. Tonight, I'm trying out the tropical lime flavor.
Pretty
See how it
solid.
goes. Yeah.
Pretty good. I'm Joseph, and tonight I'm drinking another New Belgium Voodoo Ranger twist. This one is called Experimental IPA with an X, like the X Games.
Ooh.
X gonna give it to you.
Pretty much. This one was exclusive in a variety pack that I bought, so it's
Oh.
probably dog shit.
Yeah, it's probably the leftovers.
Yeah, it's like the mystery dum
Dude,
dum
Airheads.
between the two flavors.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes.
Are we waiting for your reaction?
Tastes like a beer.
All right. Well, I'm Gabe, and I have a Voodoo Ranger as well, but it is the Starship IPA. Again, because I have self-control and haven't finished them in 2 weeks. Nah, it's because
You
I
drank
bought
like 8 Coronas last
No, it's
night.
because I bought the Corona hard seltzer pack and I've been drinking that instead.
That's fair. That's fair. I am Dayton, and I am just chugging through these Bud Light seltzers. I dig them. I like them, and I'm drinking mango tonight.
Ooh. I've seen a lot of the seltzers get into that mango action, and I like it.
Mango's a
Yeah,
pretty
mango's
solid
pretty
flavor all around. So
It's good.
I think cherry's the weakest one so far.
I don't know.
That's
The
like a White Claw
black.
favorite. Yeah.
Is it?
I feel like
Yeah.
cherry's pretty standard, but like the Coronas have this blackberry lime that just has no flavor. Like I'm not a
Yeah,
fan
it's
of it.
easier to drink
Yeah.
then, I guess.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. If you've been keeping up, you'll know we are in the midst of the March Madness Engineers Out Filters bullshit bracket, which means we have some special guests joining us tonight.
I'm Sean. I'm drinking a Sapporo tonight.
Oh, okay. I see you.
Never even heard of that beer.
Yeah, either. Is it a shitty beer?
It's like a Japanese shit beer, but
Yeah.
better than American shit
The
beer.
reason I could tell it was shitty is it said premium beer on it, and any beer that says premium or extra is just default dog shit.
Okay, but it doesn't taste like piss water, so
I like Sapporo. Yeah.
I'm Josh, and this week I'm off that seltzer shit. That was a 1 week thing for me. I'm back to my normal IPAs with the appropriate Elysium Contact Hazy IPA.
Ooh.
Okay.
Me and Joseph love me.
Because, you
Loves
know.
a good hazy.
It's pretty good. I'd suggest it.
All right.
Would recommend.
All right. I'm Emily, back again with a Moscow Mule that half's gone.
Nice
All
glass.
started today. I couldn't break into the bottle of wine, so another Moscow Mule.
Destroying all your bottle openers.
We literally had one last week and broke it. On the same bottle of wine, I bought another one at Goodwill and broke it just now. So
Okay, well you bought it at Goodwill. I don't know what you were really expecting with
It
that.
You
looked
can find
really
some.
nice.
You can find some Skookum metal ones at Goodwill though.
Just drill a hole in the bottom.
I
and
was
then-
in the
drink it
bottom.
through the cork.
I didn't think
Oh.
of that.
use the shoot.
Just break the neck right off.
I'm Max, and I've got a wonderful Humalupalicious beer. If you ever heard of that, Shorts Brewery.
That's
Mhm.
a
I've
I
had
heard
it.
IPA.
that one.
I like it.
IPA.
It's an IPA.
Hell yeah.
It's pretty
I drank that
hoppy,
one a lot
isn't
in
it?
college. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's good.
I miss Shorts. One of my favorite breweries out of
So
Michigan.
disappointing you can't get it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
At least I haven't been able to find it yet.
Feels bad, man. Well, again, welcome back to the podcast. As you know, we post every Monday on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and now Google Podcasts at around 8:30 Eastern. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at EWF Podcast. And now you can follow us on Twitch at EWF_podcast.
Because we have to be different.
Because, you know, that's how the world works. But go follow us on Twitch if you want us to record, want to see us record live. If you hit that follow button, you can see when we go live. and
Smash
hop in.
that follow button.
Smash that follow button and come watch us record and hop in the chat if you want to do that. It's usually Thursday nights, but knowing us, not always going to work out that way. So,
Yep.
yeah. Welcome back to the bullshit bracket, where we will be going up against one another, arguing about complete bullshit to see who, in fact, is the best at bullshitting. and this week our topic of discussion is natural disasters. We're doing some Mother Nature madness in the Thunderdome. All right,
Oh baby.
it's about to get windy up in here. All right.
Okay, that was one too many.
No, just keep going, Jacob. Just keep going. I know you
Keep
got
going
more.
to nature park.
It's gonna be electric. It's gonna shake your world.
So last week
More
we
puns.
did round one of the bracket, and we have now split into the winners bracket and the consolation bracket.
Losers
So we'll be
bracket.
starting off.
The losers.
Yeah, losers.
They can still become a winner if they try hard enough.
If they
And-
believe.
Starting with the consolation bracket tonight, we're starting off with Sean.
I don't like this use of the word "they" when you're talking about the losers. All right, I'm just gonna, who's they? What's you people? All right.
I may or may not be in the winners bracket, you know. We're starting off with Sean representing earthquakes versus Gabe representing limnic eruptions, which nobody knows what that is. So I'm excited for Gabe to tell us.
Oh, dude. Don't get that excited.
Based on what you were talking about earlier, I think Sean knows more about limnic.
No. We watched
Gabe
the
and I
same
both
3
watched
minute
the
video.
same 3-minute video.
All right, so this will be interesting.
Not to be just. I think Gabe should go first. I'm just gonna say that. I think
Oh,
Gabe should go
that's-
first.
Okay.
Well, my whole
Okay.
thing was to
I'd love
just
to
in
hear.
on Sean, so I don't know.
I mean,
You know.
there's still be a
Just,
cross examination after. Just give us
Okay,
a
okay,
little
that's
intro
fair.
here.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
rhyme whatever
Give
you're
us
gonna say
3
together.
minutes worth of.
Just play
Yeah.
the video.
Okay. Yeah, let's just watch the video.
Just play the audio of the video.
All right, so a limnic eruption from. Oh, I also looked on Wikipedia, so I got a slight edge. It's,
A little extra reference material there.
yeah.
Alright.
So they mainly there's like 2 to 3 lakes, so it's not like a very like worldwide phenomenon, but essentially a bunch of carbon dioxide gets stored into these lakes, and the reason that this gets stored is they sit around a lot of volcanic activity, so this carbon dioxide kind of gets pocketed, and normally that would get circulated because like different weathering conditions or even wind or like something to just mix it up so it doesn't like get stored, but instead it just kind of sits there because it's always fucking hot in Africa. So just sits there and just kind of like pressurizes, and like that denser pocket just kind of keeps pressurizing until it fucking explodes. And then it obviously makes a big splash, the biggest fucking cannonball ever. I don't know. And it also has the fun side effect of releasing carbon dioxide. And fun fact, people and living things don't really like breathing in carbon dioxide because it kind of kills you. So the one big recorded one in human history, at least, killed like 1,700 people just
Jesus.
because the gas just like went out, and then people like didn't know what was happening, obviously, and they couldn't breathe and suffocated to death. And then obviously
shit.
all other wildlife that breathes air also died. So like your cows and birds and all that stuff just fucking dead.
But the
Plants were
plants,
lit,
the
though. Yeah, they
plants,
were.
though.
Yeah,
They sure
Dayton
did.
The plants are like,
he's like
hell
the
yeah.
plants, baby.
Let's go.
They saw an opportunity. No, so that's the basic thing of it. And I'm gonna say this before Sean says it. I understand that we're all very STEM oriented people, and people are gonna be rating this off damage and like kills and death count or whatever. And I'm just gonna say this thing is very unique and niche, but it's also unique, so it makes it interesting. Instead of a bunch of shaking fucking rocks, it just whoo, and then people are like, "Oh, that's bad. Let's just build a building that can shake with it, and then the world's fine." So it just whoo does a little shake. Nah, lakes exploding and gas before you even know what's happening. Ooh, sucks.
Okay.
Took the
Alright,
unique angle. Alright.
Gabe's starting with the fire. Sean, what's
Unique.
your response?
All right, so last week we talked about rocks, so I'm going to kind of keep the theme similar and talk about earthquake. And talk about something that we've all at least had some sort of background on, at least heard about before, instead of limnic eruptions, which I didn't know about till like but everyone knows that earthquakes are caused by tectonic plates shift. in the Earth, and there's about 20 main plates that move around in the and about 20,000 earthquakes happen per year, even though like 19,999 of them are pretty fucking minor. The earthquakes are measured on the Richter scale, which is logarithmic. So if you don't know what that means, all you have to know is that an earthquake that has a 7.0 is 10 times stronger than a 6.0, and it kind of just works like. The worst ever recorded earthquake was a 9.5 in Chile, which was in 1960. And the worst earthquake in the U.S. was in 1984. There was a 9.2 in Alaska. If anyone caught it, I'm not sure if anyone did because it's been a pretty busy news week. But Utah had an earthquake on like Tuesday or something this past week. They had a 5.7, so like, kind of weak.
That's pussy shit.
But
Weak sauce.
That's the equivalent of wiping your ass from the front. All right.
So Utah wiped its ass from the front. Also, some of like the worst disasters have happened because of Earth. Mainly, one that comes to mind for pretty much everyone is Haiti in 2010. They had a 7.0 earthquake where, compared to Gabe's 1,700 people killed, Haiti had 230,000 people. Also, this might be a little bit of a cop-out because I think someone has tsunami, but in 2004, there was a tsunami caused by an earthquake where 225,000 people were killed. I think that's all I have about earthquakes. Oh, also, they're like one of the most unpredictable natural disasters, and we literally build different infrastructure to account for them, unlike other natural disasters. So that's all I've got. And if I could just roll right into my diss on limnic eruption. So, Gabe, you said there's only like 2 or 3 lakes that that this affects, right? You failed to mention that since those people have died, they've put in like pipe systems and stuff to release the CO2, so this literally isn't a problem anymore. Like it literally won't happen. It happened to 2, and they figured out a 3rd that it would happen to. They're like, this is bad, we should stop it, and then they stopped it.
They actually use it for energy. Fun fact.
They do, which is actually pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They use like the methane gas and turn it into energy.
Yeah.
We watched the same video.
We did. All right. Well, I'm going into rebuttal mode. I knew you were going to go damage because you have earthquakes. Popular, whatever.
It's been done.
Yeah. It's fucking earth. And like you said, there's also preventative measures for earthquakes anyway. So it's like, yeah. That being said, yeah, it does more damage than eruptions, whatever. But last I checked, the name of this is Bullshit Bracket, and you did a lot of research, and I watched a 3-minute video, and I'm fucking trading blows, motherfucker.
No!
Trading blows. And I don't even, it's something I didn't even know about, and I bullshit my way to the point that made it convincing and funny, and make it interesting.
Your argument isn't over yet. I mean, I feel like you're talking as if it's already
about yourself.
completed. I mean, I think I'm gonna open up the floor to questions. I have one for Sean. You say that earthquakes are hard to predict, but animals predict them all the time. Like the kiwi bird in New Zealand can stick its nose in and can feel earthquakes coming. So
are you that bird?
I mean, I'm just saying we can harness the power of animals to start predicting earthquakes. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, but how much of a warning do you have before that bird tells you there's an earthquake?
I'm talking like a solid 20 seconds.
Okay, but if there's a hurricane coming, you have a solid
quick tweet.
20 hours.
Quick tweet.
It's fair.
Anyone else have questions?
No, I'm just gonna vote for me. So.
I feel like Dayton, you're giving me a look. You're gonna look like you feel like you have a question you want to ask.
No, I don't really. No. I wish I did, but I don't.
All right. I guess you have any final words, Gabe and Sean, or you want to roll into vote?
Can I like to do a quick show of hands. Who had heard of a limnic eruption before a week ago?
Hey, it doesn't.
Okay.
Just,
No
just
one raised
because
their
it's
hands.
unique and different doesn't make it bad. Stop discriminating.
You're right, Gabe. It's unique and niche and also unique, which makes it cool, right?
Yes.
But it's also
All right, Dayton, where is your vote going this week?
You know, I'm gonna have to give it to Sean. You know, Sean and I, we had some beef last week, but you know, I've come to a.
I don't think that beef's gone.
It's not
I was gonna
gone.
come with a rap, but I didn't have enough time to prepare. So
That's fair.
My
That's
apologies.
fair. But you know, I've worked past that. We've worked past that. So my vote is with Sean this week.
All right, Josh.
All right, Gabe. Here's the thing. If you're gonna bullshit people, you can't tell them you're bullshitting them, or else they're not gonna believe you. Gabe, I was with you until you started saying that, and for that reason, I gotta go with Sean this week.
This week. You guys saying this week is killing me.
yeah, right. They're all gonna diss on me next week. It's okay.
Max.
Gonna have to go with Sean on this one. I think his debunking of the existence of Gabe's topic kind of put it to the floor for me. So
All right, Joseph.
So, I'm a fan of the niche markets, the unique things, the
Okay,
cool
Blab
shit.
Lahul.
Shut up, Iron Ore.
Hey,
Anyway,
the past is the past. all
is
right?
it? Tell that to. Anyway.
Yeah, okay.
That being said, I was all for Gabe until he's like, said the same thing Josh said, where I didn't prepare, vote for me, boo hoo hoo, this is my rebuttal. And I was gonna vote for you, Gabe, but you lost my vote there, and I'm sorry. So mine goes to Sean.
Emily.
Wow. Gabe, I'm sorry, but for all the above reasons, Sean has my vote.
All right, and you know what I say? Fuck everyone. I'm going with Gabe on this one. All right, Sean's being like, none of you heard
Surprise.
limit eruptions. That's a good thing. I think it's cool to learn about new shit and like, you know, find out about new things. And yeah, maybe they don't exist anymore, but we found out a cool engineering solution to get around it, which I think is kind of neat. It's better. It's more effective than these stupid buildings that resist earthquakes. All right, those don't even work half the time.
That's kind of cooler engineering, in my opinion.
Nope. I like we're getting power out of it. I like the uniqueness. I like the destructive capability. Not even the destructive capability as far as scale. I'm talking about the method of destruction, which is suffocation, which you don't see a lot in natural disasters. So I'm going with
you
you.
just wait.
But unfortunately,
sure about that?
Joseph, don't worry about it. All right.
Excuse me?
But unfortunately, my single vote is not enough. But so Sean will be winning this round and moving on to the consolation finals.
Oh,
Wow.
that's big news.
It's a big honor.
It is.
Consolation final, the loser finals.
The loser.
Who is the biggest loser?
Our next bout of the night, and we'll answer the question: can you fight fire with fire?
Oh, wow.
We have
Only one of these
Joseph.
is fire.
Joseph repping forest fires and Max repping volcanic eruptions, and I'll leave it up to you two to decide who goes first.
I'm indifferent. If you have an opinion, Joseph. Otherwise,
I
go
will
first.
start. So before I begin, I just want to point out, the word forest fire may not be accurate. I prefer to go with wildfire because wildfire includes forest fires, brush fires. A neat thing I learned called veld fires, which is a lowland plain in South Africa. There's upper, middle, and lower velds. So that's a cool little thing I learned. But different fires, forest fires can only happen in forests, whereas there's desert fires. But they're all considered wildfires. Little neat thing. Anyway. So, let's see. So there, yeah, forest, brush, grass. Let's see, veld. Veld's a fun word. I'm sorry. Let's see. So wildfires. I didn't prepare very well.
Damn it, Joseph.
How are we supposed to know you're bullshitting then?
So wildfires. So let's see. Was it the U.S. alone spends $200 million in the prevention of 98% of wildfires, and then the 2% that grow past what can be controlled and what we see on the news is like these California wildfires. $1 billion per year is spent on prevention and fighting those fires. So the economic damage alone to those is higher than anything you'll see with volcanoes. Half the volcanoes are underwater, no one sees them. Cool shit. What, they make pumice? Big news.
You really want to lose a vote.
I'm sinking my own ship. So.
You really are.
Yeah.
One also neat point about wildfires, they're the only natural disaster to have a mascot. Everybody knows your boy, Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent wildfires. All right. And actually, was it 15% of the $200 million spent on the prevention is on advertising for Smokey the Bear? Or
It's
campaigns with Smokey the
education.
Bear?
I would say it's education, not advertising.
Yeah, it's probably
but
a better word.
Yeah.
Let's see. Over the course of 2004 to 2009, 46 million Americans were exposed to smoke inhalation from wildfires, including first responders and civilians. So plenty of destruction. Actual deaths caused by the fire itself immediately is not nearly as high, just because most people that aren't first responders can leave the area pretty quickly. But a lot of first responders lose their lives in the line of duty, but helping save
Duty.
other people's lives. Oh my god. And then on top of that, they also spew out a bunch of emissions, CO2, carbon monoxide, black carbon, all adding to the destruction of the earth, which is what this is about. And that's all I got. Wildfires, they burn shit. Fire's neat, and yeah. And they also have an added benefit of creating new life afterwards. So there's the destruction, the yin and the yang.
How profound.
Okay. Okay.
What's that face, Dayton?
I was just gonna call you
They
out.
They burn old growth.
No. I am fully aware of that. I'm fully aware of that fact, Joseph. But
Okay.
you just said complete destruction, and you named off all these.
I was just thinking
bad
that thought
things,
too, where he talks
and
about the destruction and he's like, "Oh, it also heals everything."
Yeah, it's a cool little bit. I
You
think
can't
it's
flip a
neat.
coin and have it land on both sides, Joseph.
Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can, Dayton.
All right, the baton passes to Max.
All right, we're gonna first talk about some nice volcano facts. Dig our teeth in. We're gonna transition to some roasts at the end. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm also gonna steer a bit away from the casualty side and enter into the badass zone. All right. That's what I'm gonna call it.
Okay.
Badass.
All right, so
I
we're just
like
gonna
it.
start off with some simple stuff here. So there's two kinds of volcanic eruptions. They're an explosive one, which is pretty self-explanatory, and then there's an effusive one, which is just like volcanoes in Hawaii do this a lot, where they just have the lava flows and things, and they're not as dangerous. There's also a thing called the Ring of Fire, which you may have remember learning in middle school or elementary school or something, which is where like tons of volcanoes are, like a horseshoe shape around South and North America and Asia and places like
In
that.
the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, that thing called the Pacific Ocean.
All right, so when a volcano erupts or explodes, some of the debris, things like rock and ash and toxic gas, forget about that, can travel at 450 miles an hour, quite fast. Lava flows can obviously destroy buildings, homes, whatever, you name it.
Don't fuck
Either
shit
way,
Some
up.
of-
gone.
Some of the gases that it produces are hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, and carbon dioxide, which are all bad to breathe in.
Bad
I'm
juju.
sorry. I just have a quick question. So you're telling me that volcanoes don't help with global warming?
No, they do not.
Look at us learning all sorts of new things today.
Yeah. So the most common cause of death by volcanoes is from suffocation from all the gas, and breathing in so much ash and things will not
Bring
do
it
good to your
back.
lungs, you know. Some other cool facts: volcanoes can cause lightning because of all the friction from the ash rushing to the surface.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some cool
Some other effects can be that the ash can be so hot in a snowy area it can cause so much ice to melt it'll cause a flood.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Max, I got a question.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Question.
Go
Not
ahead.
time yet, Gabe.
Does pumice get created from volcanoes?
We'll get back to that.
Don't worry,
Changing your
priority.
result, Gabe.
The explosions from from volcanoes can cause earthquakes. Looking at you, Sean.
Okay.
Other things are like mud flows. And then I got some shout outs to my boys. We got pumice, created from volcanoes, and we got
Ooh.
obsidian,
Yeet.
which is often around volcanoes due to the cooling lava. Another fun fact is the Yellowstone National Park is a giant ass volcano and it has erupted 3 times. And the first time it did, it covered most of the United States with ash, like from Yellowstone to Missouri is about the area. So you can put that in perspective. Pretty badass. And now we're gonna take some shots with Joseph. So
This is the good stuff.
So Joseph kind of mentioned this earlier, but volcanoes can exist underwater, and I don't know why he sees that as a bad point. Because guess what can't exist underwater? Forest fires.
Oh.
Wildfires.
Whatever. All right, now picture yourself going to a middle school science fair. Right? You're gonna see a lot of little exhibits around. Let me tell you, a lot of them are gonna be volcanoes. Am I right? And guess what? None of them are gonna be wildfires.
Damn.
Not wrong. Yeah.
And last year we got that volcanoes. So yeah, volcanoes their lava flows and things can cause a wildfire, making wildfires nothing but a simple subcategory of what a volcano is.
Oh.
What a crock of shit! What a shit!
So in conclusion, we have molten rock, fire, toxic gas, lightning, floods, rain, earthquakes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that they can also cause rain because all the particles in the air. Earthquakes and mud flows. So you name it, volcanoes got it.
Oh, it's the jack of all trades of natural disasters.
Pretty
eh?
good feature set.
Damn. What a badass.
Joseph, do you have
Badass loader.
That's
see.
funny.
So I just want to point out Max was saying how cool volcanoes are because they create obsidian. But if you recall the record last year, Max was saying obsidian
Last
is
year.
bullshit. Last week, god damn it. This beer's a bit stronger than I was expecting. I've also been up for a long time today. Really tired.
Excuses.
But last week, Max was claiming how awful obsidian is, and now he uses it as a positive point in his argument. What a flip-flop. Pointing that out.
What a piece of shit. Just
Yeah, honestly, make an opinion and stick with it. Some bullshit you are. And also, volcanoes don't have a mascot. And what an overused science fair project. Like, come on, be original.
Yeah, just set your
start
school
a
on fire.
forest fire.
Hey, I'm not saying necessarily to do fire for a science fair project, but like, it's so easy, it's so basic, it's like the go-to. Come on, overplayed, overused, old news. what is neat is that in Greek mythology, fire was considered knowledge, and so the god, actually I think it's
You
Greek.
sound
and,
dumb as fuck.
All right, Gabe, hold on. I thought there were no interjections from the peanut gallery.
Gabe,
All right.
you're benching
Boom, roasted.
So the story of, and I forget exactly which god it was, but to brought humans knowledge and allowed them to be separate from, or like to have their own thought, was to bring them fire. And so fire is what kind of, being able to contain fire allowed humans to evolve past, just monkeys and to smelt iron ore.
Oh, represent.
Joseph
Okay,
just
don't
burning bridges
flip-flop
left and
over
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interject, but
That's
you're
what
talking about
wildfires
Prometheus,
do.
right? It's
Yes, Prometheus. That's correct.
Yeah.
He brought fire to the humans, and so fire has been an important part in a lot of human cultures, and keeps a lot of people warm at night. So it can be used for good and bad.
I'm gonna open up the floor to questions, and I have a couple I wanted to get off my chest right away for Joseph. I just want to ask if you have any thoughts on controlled burns and or the recent Australia wildfires.
So controlled burns are used for two different things. They can be used to purposefully jumpstart old forests. If there's too much old growth, they'll burn through it to jumpstart new growth, and they're also used to slow down wildfires. So they'll burn a section so that when the fire gets to it, it can't keep going because the shit's already burned. And my thoughts on it, it's a clever idea, and you have no way to stop and or prevent or retaliate against a volcano, and so they're reckless and a glass cannon, and they need to be stopped.
What?
I don't know if I call them a glass cannon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's my
All right,
thoughts.
I've got a question for both parties to help you exercise some bullshit.
Okay.
Which or why do you think people are more scared of your natural disaster? Like, which, I mean, obviously you're gonna vote for your own. So, like, why do you think people are more scared of your natural disaster than the other?
Max?
Once
Way
a
to buy
volcano
that.
has exploded, there's no running. Unlike
Good
a
day, kiddo.
wildfire where you can just run like a little kid, you know. But when that volcano explodes, you're donezo. So if you're in the kill
Pompeii.
zone,
Wasn't there a recent eruption actually? I don't remember, I think it was a couple months ago. People were like hanging out like
New
near
Zealand.
a volcano.
It was in
Yeah,
New
it was in New
Zealand.
Zealand. Yeah,
It
it
was
was
like
on an
last
island,
year.
and people were like just there, like
Yep.
tourists were there, and then it exploded and killed a bunch of people.
Yep.
Yeah, like 17, I think.
Joseph, do you think that you're?
I think
bigger than
wildfires have a higher fear potential because it's something that people used to, not as much anymore, but have a lot. People would make fires, to keep warm, and if you fuck it up, all of a sudden you have this massive fire and you can cause a lot of damage. So there's this balancing act of being safe, but also keeping yourself and other people warm. So it has this huge potential to do good, but this higher potential to cause massive destruction. And so I think having that necessity and trying to contain it can be more fearful.
All right.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One for Joseph, one for Max.
You wrote it down.
I'll go with the I did write them down because I don't want to forget them. I'll go with the one with Max because we've been hammered on Joseph now for a little bit. Max, what is your opinion on a hypothetical large-scale condom for volcanoes?
what did you exactly ask me? My thoughts on it? Did you
Yeah,
say?
like what do you think? What are your opinions on if a huge, robust condom were to be made and placed over all the volcanoes, to
Would it be
stop
made out of
destruction?
latex?
I was
still,
just
or-
gonna ask this
See,
question.
I don't know what it'd be made out of. Like, you would think that I would know
Well,
because I'm a materials
like,
engineer,
here's-
but straight
here's
up
my
I
thought,
don't.
I think-
it doesn't melt.
I think
Steel
in some
condom.
cases I don't disagree. I
maybe.
think that a giant condom to put over the volcanoes would be able to prevent some smaller scale explosions, but I think once we get to some larger scale ones,
You
it's
think it
just
would
there's no
splooge
way
out the
to
bottom?
contain it. Yeah, there's no way to
Adding
contain it.
shrapnel at that
It's
point.
gonna find a way to get through
Yeah.
where it just explode.
It's like a
It's
pipe
gonna,
bomb.
it's
It
gonna
would
find
rupture the
another way.
Yeah. Yeah, when there's a
Yeah,
will, there's
exactly.
a way, right? Yeah.
And you
What
always
about-
have the fear that somebody's gonna poke a hole in them. You know.
The worst. The
What about
worst.
2 condoms though?
Two?
Yeah.
You never
And if you
want
double up, it's twice as effective.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
I honestly wonder if you could make one out of like a tungsten carbon weave. I'm not even like bullshitting.
I think
wonder if that
it'd be too brittle.
Well, I'm thinking of like Mount
That's why
St.
it's a
Helen,
weave.
right? That whole thing, like fucking.
And well, the
like,
thing is, you have to
blew
hold
out.
in everything. It has to be like
Yeah.
perfect, because ash
Right.
and
Like a
stuff
big
can still
plug,
get
you know?
out, and the
Like a
gas
tight
can
studio.
still kill
Like
you.
not even just the
Big deal.
explosion, but like the actual like mountain. Like if it's a mountainous, like.
I think
volcano, like,
it
that
would just
part.
splooge out the bottom, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Well, if it
leave
was
a
like
little,
if it was
gap
like
at the tip,
flexible
fine.
or something, like
A
Uh,
reservoir,
it-
you know.
yeah.
it could
At the tip.
expand.
Yeah.
It would expand but not like retract too much, you know.
Okay. Okay. Food for thought.
Are you
food
thinking
for
like
thought.
just over like the mouth of the volcano, or like
this was
the
my question.
entire... I'm asking Dayton.
All right.
I want him to elaborate on this question. Like
I'll
over the
also
entire
follow.
volcano, or just like over the mouth, the whole.
Well, okay, so if you're, have you, well, who am I kidding? Of course you've done this before. Have you ever like put like a drinking glass in your mouth, like try to like blow out of it? Of course you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like.
Look at Sean's got it going.
when
Wait,
that
do it right now,
happens-
Emily. You got a glass.
Yeah, my mouth's not gonna fit around that.
when that happens, like your like air comes out from around it, so you need to fully encompass the thing. So like if you have like a fucking rubber glove over your head or something like that, and you try to like blow out of it, it's gonna snap around your neck. Like you're not gonna be able to blow out of it. So
You
you're
say
really
that like you know from experience.
Yeah.
maybe not. You know, that's the time. That's a story for another time. But yeah, I think you need to fully encompass, probably shaft and balls and all.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you have
Take
to.
the
Pull me
volcano
out this volcano where the balls.
Okay.
Yeah, take this volcano
Here's the
by
other
the
problem.
balls.
If you're building a condom around a volcano, normally you go tip down, but like that's just not how infrastructure works. You have to
That's
build the base,
gravity
right?
works.
You gotta start
A
and then go up.
helicopter.
Oh, you're talking about like one
Roll
big
it,
ass
you know?
thing.
Yeah.
I was imagining it to be metal, but I mean, if it's latex, I guess you could have like
Rolls it right down.
2 other helicopters that roll it down while one holds it in place.
Get some,
Alright,
get some
Dayton,
small.
question
Oh
for
yeah,
Joseph.
my other question, Joseph.
Wait,
so you-
Dayton, real quick, would it be
Yeah.
stubbed, ribbed, or just plain?
I think it'd be flavored, honestly.
Yeah, you could flavor that shit.
I feel like you couldn't have an ultra thin on it
Yeah.
because
No.
that would,
Oh,
that
no,
would,
you couldn't at
know,
all.
No,
That
and
just
definitely you need
Alright.
to get like the step up from Magnum even. Maybe even a little bit bigger than the step up. I don't know. I'm not a
Maybe
mathematician. or anything.
magma, you know what I mean?
Oh. Okay.
That was good.
God damn it.
Okay,
Ask this
but
question
yeah,
quick so
my-
we can move the fuck on.
My
Yeah,
second
thank you.
question, Joseph. So you mentioned the economic damage that forest fires cause. What about the money that it puts back into the economy, such as paying the firefighters and stuff like that, and the education? Education is priceless.
Look at his smile, dude. He's fucked.
that's part of the yin and the yang that are wild.
I already told you, man. You can't flip a coin and have it land on both sides.
Why can't something have destructive power but also have good on the other side of it?
You got to choose one of these, one of them, Joseph, for the purposes of this debate.
The purposes of this debate, I think.
Where the criteria is very clear. It's what's the best natural disaster. I mean, how more
But-
specific could I get?
That is a very open-ended. I think mine is the best because it does have both. It has that added benefit of having this investment into the economy, but also taking away from it. It destroys these large expanses of land, but it also helps regrow it.
All right, I'm shutting
And I
down
think
the
It's
conversation.
got that double edge to it, and I think that is one that
It's got that double
Volcano's
wrap.
Yeah, it's got the double wrap. All right. Double.
Emily, I'm going to you first. Where's your vote going?
I was really torn because I enjoyed the badass volcanoes, but I too think the best natural disasters got two sides to it. So I'm going with the yin and the yang. Joseph, my vote goes to you.
Thank you.
All right. Sean.
I would also say that volcanoes probably more like instantly destructive, and we had a great condom, but I would also have to go with the forest, just for like yearly damage.
Okay. Joshua.
All right.
Joshua? Who calls him Joshua?
I'm trying to mix it up.
What the fuck, Jacob? Come on.
All right, Jake.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. How do you feel now?
Just trying to
Hey,
mix it up,
Gabriel, you
man.
take that back, all right?
All right, so you both had really good initial arguments, but Joseph, I won't
Yeah.
call you Joe. That'd just be rude.
A lot of people call me Joe. So.
Not my Joe.
That's true.
Your rebuttal was
Mhm.
straight fire.
Goddamn.
All right, and then Dayton said something about flipping coins and you can't land it on its side. I'd argue that and say that is false because I have literally seen a coin land on its side. Granted, it landed in between like the two parts of my
Oh my
laptop.
He said it can't land on both sides, not that it can't land on its side.
It didn't say on its
Hey.
side.
Yeah, that's not the same.
Shut up, that's how I took it, and this is my vote. And then, lastly, I think we all know the meme saying only Josh can prevent forest fires, but really, we can all prevent forest fires.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought that was going more, but it really wasn't.
I thought I had more going, but it just kind of ended.
Yeah, Joseph, you've got my vote here.
Starting out with a strong 3-0 lead for Joseph. Now we're going to Gabe.
Can Max
Oh,
pull the
dude,
reverse
it's-
sweep?
It's an easy max for me. All right, here's why. I'm not gonna be a Josh and explain for 5 minutes and then say a vote. I'm just going to Max, and the reason why his argument was way better. It was a lot more structured, and Joseph burnt me twice in his debate to try and get my vote, and then he tried
Burn
to.
you with that wildfire.
Okay, but wildfires, it can just rain and go away. Like volcanoes cause rain, they
That's
cause
not
fires.
true, but okay.
It's not like there's a slight mist in the air and everything's good.
That's definitely how it works. No, I
Right.
liked Max's argument better, and I don't know. That was it.
Okay. Dayton.
You know what? I think I'm gonna go with the one that is like the Swiss Army knife of natural disasters. Max, you are my choice.
My man.
All right. And that leaves it down to me. And you know what? Max, I'll just say this. You had me at lightning. As soon as the volcano caused lightning, I'm fucking in. That is so badass. All right.
Thank you. That's what I
I'm
was
going
going
with
for.
Max. So we got a tie, which means we go to the Twitch chat. Dayton.
See,
I'm not in the Twitch.
I'm not sure how
I
many
don't think we
people
have
are
enough
in
people.
the
There are 5 people watching,
I'm one of them.
and I am one.
I'm not sure how many
I mean, we want
responses
an
we're
odd
gonna
number.
If you're in, if you're
Oh,
watching
Oh,
us
hell
on
yeah.
Twitch,
Emily's brother's on. It's all up to Emily's brother.
Oh no.
RJ.
RJ gets the pick.
Yeah,
Oh,
RJ,
boy.
you are the sign
Good to
Joe
see
and
Joe.
Valentine's.
Volcanoes. It's-
Hey, I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't.
No.
But maybe it's coming in.
Max
Max
did
did
great.
Ooh. From
Thank
Emily's
you.
mom.
Okay.
Val,
All right.
Thank you.
You know what? Emily's mom is the deciding vote. We're going with Max. This
RJ
Oh,
also
people.
voted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wendysies.
So
Oh,
our
thanks.
consolation final will be Sean versus Max next week.
Oh, I can't shit on Max.
But
Yeah,
you can
well-
with me? What the fuck?
Oh, I can shit on Gabe every day. I can shit on
play-
Max.
We'll
you
play
suck,
nice, Sean.
dude.
We'll play nice.
So do you, apparently.
Yeah.
We'll be very.
And now it's time for the winners bracket. We have Dayton with tsunamis versus Josh with avalanches. Ice versus water, the never-ending battle. Right?
Is it?
Now, I feel like Dayton prepared a rap, so I'm gonna go to Josh first.
Oh man, I was really hoping Dayton's rap would go first.
I mean,
But-
you can, Josh, if you want to do that,
Dude,
then
can I-
some of my
defer?
some of my lines are written to be the second person. So
All right, I think I can out bullshit you here, Dayton. So I'll go first.
okay.
I think that was a fucking lie.
Good luck.
Way to start off the bullshit strong.
oh, Josh has just finished his beer and thrown it. He is ready to
All
go.
right. Avalanches kill on average 150 people a year. All right. And
Alright.
those avalanches are most likely to occur between slopes of 30 and 45 degrees. These avalanches can occur because of instabilities in your snowpack, when you get over a foot of snow in the night, and changing in temperatures. So if it's like rapidly increases temperature, you can also see more instabilities in your snowpack. You might think, why 30 to 45 degrees? Well, the steeper your slope, the more likely it is the snow is just a slough and not build up deep snowpacks that would cause avalanches. And for flatter slopes, it requires more force to trigger the avalanche. So it's probably not going to happen. All right. So then, you might have seen movies, right?
I've seen a movie or two in my day.
I may have seen
Movies
What's
about
what's a
Those are
avalanches.
those
movie?
moving pictures, right?
All right, but in these movies specifically, you might see someone like shout or something, and it triggers an avalanche. Well,
Mhm.
that's false. Noise doesn't really trigger avalanches. Avalanches are normally triggered by the victim or someone in their party, not by noise.
Wait, but
So
like,
then-
how?
like walking around it, like
Or
Yeah,
snowboarding,
Oh,
stuff like that.
oh,
yeah.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, snowboard, skiing, snowmobiling, but not by noise.
Okay.
Just like, yelling, that's not going to trigger an avalanche. So when you're in the backcountry, yell as much as you want.
you ruined all movies for me, Josh.
Yep. And then during an avalanche, like when the snow's running down the mountain, it can reach speeds of 80 miles an hour within 5 seconds. It's pretty terrifying. It's pretty fast.
80 miles per hour. Yeah, that's moving.
Yeah. And then the most deadly type of avalanche is a slab avalanche. Not just like light snow, but a slab's like a big chunk of snow just moving downhill as a single unit. And it's just gonna like wipe you out, take you down with it, and then you're most likely gonna sink. Do you know why that is? No,
Because you're
probably
heavier
don't.
than snow?
No. Oh shit, Gabe does know.
It's not
Sci-
interactive. This
sci-
is Josh talking.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Right?
Shut up. But scientifically, a human is 3 times denser than snow, so you're gonna sink because of that. And then, in an avalanche, when you sink below snow and it settles, it's gonna settle like fucking concrete. So you're trapped under there. So when you're trapped, if you're found within 18 minutes of like the avalanche setting, there's a 90% survival rate. But then if it goes from 19 to 30 minutes, that rate decreases to 30%. And then after an hour, 1 in 3 people are found alive in an avalanche. And do you know why that is, Jacob?
Why?
Suffocation. Another natural disaster
Honestly,
because
we
of
get a lot more
suffocation.
suffocation than I'm expecting tonight. Good job, team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Huh.
But
Who would have thought?
yin and yang, there's a lot of bad from an avalanche, but there's also a lot of good because they are also very preventable. And I would encourage you to take an avalanche safety course. And when you travel in the backcountry, use proper tools such as avalanche beacons. So if you like fall in an avalanche, everyone else in your party will be able to locate you. They can use their probes to like stick them in the snow to find you. And then airbags, these are really important. So like when you start going down the avalanche, you pull your ripcord, big like your backpack explodes and it's a thing of air. And what this does is it keeps you on top of all the snow that's falling because of the larger surface area, much like a bag of granola. If you ever got a bag of granola, you'll know the bigger pieces are always at the top and smaller are at the bottom.
Mm.
And then
I didn't notice
can
that, but I'm
also-
gonna look for that now.
Not the analogy I would have used, but
I know.
okay.
as an avid teleskier, I eat a lot of granola.
I was saying like
Only I do
chips.
know. That works too. Same concept. And then you can also use what's called an avilung. So if you get stuck in the avalanche, you can like something you basically just throw in your mouth, and it just gives you more oxygen to increase your survival time.
That's pretty cool.
And then, you know what? I think I'll leave the rest of this for the rebuttal. Dane, what do you have?
All right. Josh, laying down those facts like a nice fresh sheet of snow. Dayton, what do you have in response?
All right.
I'm waiting for you to. I'm waiting for you to play like a beat. Like I'm waiting for like it to start. Like
I unfortunately did not make a beat for this, but I do have some lines to spit. All right. Well, Josh, congrats on the win last week, but your situation's looking bleak. You just hit us with numbers, dates, and facts. Well, this week you're getting the axe. And since you picked Avalanche, you ain't getting no olive branch. I'm out for blood, and my tsunami is bringing the flood. Tsunamis are often called tidal waves, having carried many to their graves. Oftentimes they're caused by an earthquake, which is sure to keep the people awake. But to cause damage, they need to be on the coast, which is more than I need for this roast. One of the deadliest tsunamis in history occurred on December 26th, which didn't leave much of a mystery when people were buried under the sticks. In fact, many people rush to the shore when they see the water go out, when they should be on the second floor or taking the evacuation route. Perhaps that is why tsunamis are so cruel. They draw you to the water, sitting there like a jewel as they await your slaughter. The floodwaters come in, displacing everything in the way, even your kin as they run like prey. But let's talk about avalanches. I really do like my chances. It's just a landslide made of snow that makes you say, whoa. But I suppose it is more than that, right? They crush you like a gnat. Sure, they cause death, but as they squeeze their victims' last breath, but not as many as a tsunami. I'm just glad I haven't been caught, not me. You'll surely say, but Dayton, they're cold and they move really fast. But that argument can't be sold. Look at the audience's eyes, glassed. Compared to mine, a stark contrast. But now I'm done. I've had my fun. After all, I've just put you on blast. Let's hear who won.
Drop that mic.
God.
Joshua, the rebuttal.
All right, Dane, I think you forgot to mention that on average, tsunamis only kill 79 people per year, where avalanches kill 150. And I would argue avalanches are more preventative than a tsunami. And so what does that say?
It's more destructive.
Exactly. But also,
No,
I
if
think
it's
we
if
can
it's
all
not
agree
if it's not predictable, it's more destructive. Like
hold on. There are too many goddamn people on this earth. And we could kill off a couple people, right?
Wow, you're grasping at straws.
No, hold on.
You need an airbag, dude. You need to lift yourself to the surface.
But they kill more people, which is a good thing because Darwinism.
Josh, why did you
Natural
mention 3
selection.
different ways to stay above an avalanche if you want people to die?
Yin and yang, Dayton.
What?
Yin and yang.
All right, I have a
The
question.
smart will live, the dumb will die.
Okay.
I'm open to the floor to questions. I have one to start off with for Josh. So with avalanches, do more people die from suffocation or from impact? Like, can you die from the impact of snow, or is it more often suffocation?
No, so it's gonna be more suffocation because if you've ever watched like a POV video from an avalanche,
Mhm.
the snow's just gonna start sliding and you're just gonna get caught in that.
Yeah.
And it's not till the end when you're gonna get buried.
Okay, so it'll like knock you down and cover you, and that's what kills you.
Exactly.
I've got a question. Josh, are you pro coronavirus or
What?
you want people to die? So
No, okay, hold on, Josh.
We
Before
did say there's
I
too many
gotta-
people on this.
I want to
earth.
defend Josh for a second because there's a difference between wanting people to die and wanting the smart people to live. All right, Josh is promoting Darwinism, not extinction. All
okay, fair.
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cite Jacob's defense on this one.
I have a question. Dayton, how long did it take you to make that little jingle you got?
Probably like an hour, hour and a half,
Okay.
A little jingle.
maybe 2. I didn't really keep track of time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
weren't counting.
Nah, I was
Time
having
just flew
fun.
by.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Dayton, we've yet to hear from the other ocean natural disaster, but I'm curious to see where you feel yours ranks. I know you were up against avalanche, but just out of curiosity, because I don't know much about the tsunami.
hmm
Just out of curiosity, where do you feel like it ranks?
Well, so Sean hit on it earlier when he talked about earthquakes, and that earthquake that Sean was talking about that happened in 2004, December 26th, which I had mentioned in my rap slash poem slash slam poetry piece. That is what caused the tsunami in Indonesia, which is called Boxing Day, and it left millions dead because it was a very popular beach, and it was during the holiday season, and that is also where I drew my inspiration for the line, "It lures you to the beach like a jewel," because really that's what happens when they happen. The water gets sucked out first as it starts to create the long period wave, which is really what tsunamis are. And then so it draws it out, and then it shows a whole bunch of the beach that is normally left hidden. So then all the people flock out to it, and they're like, "Wow, look at all this stuff! Like we've never seen the beach like this big before." They flock out to it, and then like an hour later is when the wave crashes in, and it's moving so fast that they can't react to it. But even getting up to like the second or third floor of a building, oftentimes can save you. So I think it's very destructive because it's not hard to predict, because if you know the warning signs, you can avoid it. But a lot of people don't know the warning signs, and it actually draws them to them, sort of like a pitcher plant draws in insects to eat them.
That's kind of what I was thinking of too. Okay.
These
glad you got that.
analogies.
Yeah.
I love Dayton's giving us the genius behind the lyrics.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I like it.
It's like a genius interview. He needs that yellow backdrop or whatever.
Okay, I have one more question for Dayton.
Okay.
Ooh.
How many limericks and haikus did you use this week?
0 limericks, 0 haikus. I used a mixture of couplets, ballads, and I think that might be it. I just used couplets and ballads this week. Yeah.
So you're saying you used less, so your argument was shittier this week?
Not necessarily. I used constructive feedback from the crowd and from my fellow contestants, and I spent too much time roasting last week and not enough providing facts, which is why this week I chose to use a little bit more facts and try and get the information out.
But I think we would all agree limericks and haikus would have made it better.
Let's leave it up for the judges.
Pretty sure you're using a fallacy there, dude.
Gabe, I'm going to you first. Where's your vote going this week?
Okay, I didn't get to hear Josh's rebuttal because it's going to the bathroom, but I really probably didn't need to hear it.
Damn.
I heard the line, Josh is spitting facts, eyes glass, something stark contrast, and I was like, damn. That's just immediately. And then the genius interview we had was made it pretty easy.
All right, Gabe's going with Dayton. Now we're going to Sean.
All right, so this one's probably the easiest choice I've had both last week and this week. 2 reasons. Well, I'll go 3 reasons. 1, dating. 2, starts with, and 3, I go backcountry snowboarding a good amount, so hearing about avalanches was pretty cool. So I am clearly.
All right, 1-1. Sending it over to Max.
You know, I'm pretty torn on this one, honestly, because Dayton obviously he really put in the work, you know, and I appreciate it. But at the same time, it's the bullshit bracket, and if anything, Josh was spewing some bullshit. So I'm pretty torn, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Dave, just because
Alright.
he's got the tools, and I thought he had some nice disses in there.
I like it. Joseph?
See, I'm in a similar boat as Max, where it's a bullshit bracket, right? Coming in too prepared, it doesn't seem right. At the same time, sometimes Josh sounds a little not enough prepared. So you get
You can do both at the same time.
Josh
It's impressive.
his facts. Come on.
Yeah,
Dude, you
it's
should
just the
see my
way he
board.
presents-
You know the It's Always Sunny episode where
Yeah.
the mailroom with hey, Sylvia.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's what my board looks like right now. That was, that's what I was trying to read.
Strings and-
Exactly.
You know, as much I gotta go Dayton because it is a bullshit bracket, and he did it again, and that is straight bullshit that he can just do this fucking 2-minute rhyme shit. And it's like, oh yeah, it took me an hour. Like, I didn't do it. That's bullshit. That's the biggest load of bullshit of the night.
Alright, Emily.
Wow, like you said, it's been tough, guys. But I have to go with the person who, because I think it makes a good bullshitter, is somebody who can take the crowd's feedback and want to win them over with their bullshit again. So, I think that's pretty neat. So my vote goes to Dayton, but I think a true bullshitter would, be like, okay, I want to win them over. I want to prove it. So, we'd try it again. So.
Alright. Emily's going Dayton, which solidifies his win, but I still want to give my thoughts. I'm going Josh this week. Dayton, I liked your rhyme a lot better this week. I think a lot better flow.
Thank you.
I think excluding the limericks and haiku actually helped with your flow, so I appreciated that. And I appreciated your attempt on including more facts, but unfortunately still was not enough for me. All right, I want to know more about your tsunamis, and I feel like Josh laid down some really interesting things about avalanches I'd never heard before, like this whole air lung thing you put in your mouth, you can breathe better. I like it. I went into this episode thinking I'm going pure destructive power, but now I'm just like, what's interesting? And I found I was more interested in what Josh was saying, so I'm going with Josh. But alas, Dayton will be moving on to the finals of the bullshit bracket and going up against me because I'm gonna win this next fight.
Oh, confident.
That's some balls.
All right, so Jacob, just to reiterate, you heard Josh spitting numbers and dates and facts, and despite him actually getting the axe, you want me to start including even more dates.
See, okay, I want to be clear. When I say facts, I don't mean I don't really care about numbers and dates. I care about interesting tidbits, like the whole like the air pack thing you can use to get above the ground and.
Okay,
Yeah,
so apparently Jacob likes pseudoscience about why things with more surface area. Pseudoscience. Josh spewing this shit about more surface area, dude. If you put a plate that has a fucking shit ton of surface area in an avalanche, depending on its density, it's just gonna sink. It's the density and the volume that brings it
in
up.
order to be able to walk on snow, you need shoes with a bigger surface area like snowshoes. So.
That's different though, because once you're on top is different than once you're submerged.
All right, let's save for next week. I'll be going up against you. We can fight that.
Okay, come at me.
Right, Emily,
Suck my ass, Jacob. Suck my ass.
I know. I'm honestly really scared right now.
I just wrote so many disses while you were shitting on me.
You destroyed Joseph.
So our final fight of the night is Emily versus herself. Emily bringing the heat on droughts.
Yeah.
See what I did there? And
I'll
be bringing the typhoon. Emily, would you like to go first or second?
I can take the lead on this one unless you have some lines that need to be laid down first.
Please go for it.
Okay. I want you guys to imagine the scenario I'm about to put you in. Okay. It's not too unsimilar to the one some of us are in now. Not exclusively, but hear me out. So you go to turn on the tap water and it doesn't work, and then it won't be on for a few more weeks. Your lights are off, the Wi-Fi's out because your hydroelectric dam produces powers down. You can't go to school or work because there's an outbreak of diseases due to poor sanitation. Like I said, not unlike what we're going through. Oh, and everything's on fire also due to the wildfires because of extreme dryness. Shout out. Um, if you're experiencing this madness where you put yourself in, you're probably experiencing the worst kind of natural disaster of them all. And I literally mean worse than everybody's here. And that's a drought. So, a drought is defined as a relatively long time where there's not enough water, which like might be something Jacob tries to like fire back at me like, "Oh, it's just not water. It's just not raining." So you may be thinking that droughts aren't considered natural disasters because of the lack of rain, but I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. They're occur in nature and they're very disastrous. One of the most devastating droughts killed 3 million people in just 2 years. And then the most effective drought, quote unquote, had over 300 million affected in like one whole nation area. But kind of two big points about droughts, why they're the best natural disaster. And I totally took the destructive aspect here. So I'm glad you're not voting for me, Jacob. um, but my first point is it's about the long game. And I think we kind of know that. And then droughts change the world. So, I mean, we've all had natural disasters and talked about them tonight, but droughts really have had a huge effect on the way that humanity has been kind of sculpted. So, I'll get into that a little bit. But droughts are different. They don't make some like big, flashy entrance like a, I don't know, typhoon or something. But the impact builds over time, really taking destruction and devastation in the long game. More people die from droughts than any other natural disasters put together, like over the span of humanity. Not more so recently, probably like 2010 on, but throughout our history. So they have environmental impacts like causing wildfires, destruction of wildlife habitat, and then erosion and soil dangers. Economic impacts like affecting farming, the farming industry, affecting hydroelectricity, which is pretty big, and then affecting travel of goods. And then social impacts like health issues due to dust, forced migration of human populations, and then obviously loss of life. So droughts have changed the world. Roughly like 100,000 years ago, the mega droughts in Africa were likely responsible for the first migrations of early humans. So it was getting so dry in these areas that people actually had to leave Africa and actually populate like all different continents over the world, which like we wouldn't be here without. Droughts in the Middle East or in parts of Europe are likely responsible for the fall of pharaohs, which I thought was really interesting to bring back the Egypt mention from like last week. This is around like 3,000 years ago or so. And then this region became the Roman Empire. So basically, droughts are responsible for the Roman Empire, which is also destructive and really cool at the same time. The Mayan Empire also fell to a drought, like it literally wiped them out of existence due to like food scarcity and war with neighboring countries. So another human social aspect. And then one we're probably pretty familiar with is the Dust Bowl of the Great Plains in the Midwest and Canada. Mid 1930s, it drove 2 million people away from their homes and off the land, mostly due to diseases because of poor sanitation. So there wasn't water, people weren't cleaning food, dishes themselves. It was pretty gross. But estimated 7,000 people died in 1 year, which, like, in the 1930s, there was a lot of tragic stuff going on. So 7,000 deaths due to just droughts alone. It's kind of what I have besides my rips on typhoons. So I'm gonna pass it over, and hear what you got.
All right.
That
wanna
was
go with
so
the-
passive aggressive.
Let's hear what you have.
The certified Max method of give you the facts and then give you the disses. All right.
Yeah.
Certified, okay.
If you don't
Max
know
certified.
what a typhoon is, it is a tropical cyclone that originates in the Pacific Ocean, right? Now, we were discussing off the podcast, like, are it typhoons like Southern Hemisphere? No. Typhoons are Pacific Ocean, hurricanes are Atlantic Ocean. And then depending on if you're in Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere, it'll spin different directions. So it's counterclockwise in the north, clockwise in the south. You know, like if you go to Australia and they flush a toilet, it goes the
That's
opposite way,
false.
you know,
That's
kind of stuff.
that's false.
Shut up.
True.
Get the fuck
The
out
audience
of
doesn't even
here.
know that. There are three classes of typhoons. There's just your regular old, generic name brand typhoon going at 73 miles per hour. You have a severe typhoon, which is at 92 miles per hour, And then you have the super typhoon going at 120 miles per hour, messing people up.
All right, that's badass.
All right. Also, they're just inherently just better than hurricanes in every way. They're often a lot stronger than hurricanes because they occur in a warm climate, which allows them to spin faster. There's typically 27 typhoons per year, which is like a respectable number. They mostly occur in the summer months, again, due to the weather. And yeah, they have a lot of really cool implications as far as destructive capability. All right. So first off, you got the wind force. Okay, we're ripping rooftop buildings. We're throwing projectiles around, hitting shit. All right. Building materials, throwing into stuff, breaking windows. A lot of wind destruction there. On top of that, because it occurs in the ocean, you're bringing some rain with you. All right. It's technically a storm, so you got persistent rainfall. Get that water damage, that flood damage, right? Making homes uninhabitable. You're also at the same time making roads impassable and crippling rescue efforts. All right, these guys can't even get to the disaster area because these roads are taken out by this typhoon. Okay, on top of that, you got environmental damage. We're talking about trees, vegetation, and crops all getting wiped out. All right, this is taking out people's stores of supplies and food source. You can also oversaturate the soil with salt water and kill a bunch of plant life. If you're like somehow like on a boat during a typhoon, I'm sorry, you're done. Okay, just bye bye. If you're on the water at all, you're done. And then also, while typhoons are very flashy and big entrants and have a lot of destruction off the top, they're also similar to droughts, a silent killer because of this destroying of resources. It's really hard to live in a post-typhoon area, just because your house is destroyed and all your food's been soaked through. All right, so it's not great. And finally, with the water, floods can come through and actually spread disease. All right, so you're also getting a nice infection at the end of it. So typhoons are coming at you from a lot of different angles. Now, moving on to the droughts, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of notes here because droughts are so goddamn boring. All right, there's really just not a lot here because they're just no water. That's it. That's all you got. Like, there's nothing going on. Okay. Also, it takes way too long to declare a drought. It takes at least 15 days before you can say we're in a drought. Typhoons, boom, you have it. It's coming. It's gonna hit you hard. Okay. You got to go through the 4 stages of drought to actually get to the one that's socioeconomic. All right. There's the meteorological, hydrological, agricultural, socioeconomic. 4 stages too many. All right. I want to just be hitting the natural disaster now. Okay. It takes too much time. Droughts, happen all the time, and they can be easily fixed with just a nice rain dance. All right, how about you just look up some rain dances, get it going, make the rain come, boom, your situation is solved. And also, like, when a typhoon hits and destroys someplace, you can't really live there anymore. With a drought, once it rains, back to normal. You're good. All right. Everything can be reversed very easily. You're back living in your old house, your old life. You know, Unlike a typhoon that comes, it literally rips your roof off and like washes everything away. So I don't think there's really a contest here. Typhoons kick ass and droughts are boring.
All right, that is not true. Coming from the guy who's like, I actually don't like the destruction argument anymore, built his whole foundation on destruction.
Yeah, because typhoons are fucking badass.
No, I'd like to bring back Josh's argument from last week about putting whatever in the microwave versus like in the oven.
It was
It's
because
much
pumice got created instantly, and whatever his was long. Yeah.
But anyways, a typhoon, sure, a little scary. But you missed a big point here.
95 miles an hour.
A small typhoon is called a tropical depression, which honestly is just kind of sad.
That's because I'm not talking about tropical depressions, Emily. I'm talking about typhoons. All right, I'm talking about regular,
you're
severe,
missing
and super typhoons.
Huge point, Jacob, that a typhoon is just a rip-off hurricane, which is literally just a rip-off cyclone, aka a tropical storm. Honestly, that doesn't sound that bad right now because it's been cold and I could use some warm weather.
Emily, I've already established that typhoons are inherently better than hurricanes. So don't even come at me with
Not
that
even,
shit.
They're literally the same thing in a different side of the world, so it's not even the point.
Typhoons are always stronger than hurricanes because of the warm weather. I don't know what to tell you.
A typhoon is also, like, by definition, an organized, rotating system of clouds. And, like, that just doesn't sound scary. We're, like, losing all my food and water and having to move away from my home. Sounds significantly worse.
Guess what? If a typhoon hits, you also have to move away from home anyway. So, you get that on.
What about the ones that happen in the ocean and literally never hit land? They're just caused by warm water. Which, like, that's kind of pathetic.
I mean, you're dissing water, but that's the one thing that would make droughts go away. So
How about climate change? They're the ones causing droughts. So maybe we just fix the CO2, they wouldn't happen anymore. Also, I got some more disses, so just hang in. They weaken over land as if they got some kind of like stage fright or some shit. They're like really powerful in the ocean. They get up to land and they're too scared to actually do what they're meant to do. And then and they can't even do any real damage because of that. So the longest
okay,
typhoon,
120 miles per hour winds not doing real damage. Okay.
the longest typhoon only lasted 37 hours. That's some weak shit. The longest drought lasted for 38 years. So I'm just saying, a lot more devastation happens in the 38 years than 37 hours.
I don't know. It sounds like you're pinning a lot of the destruction on the Roman Empire, which took advantage of droughts. So I feel like you're backpacking on what they did.
Okay, but like humankind could not have been created unless a drought happened for everybody to move across the continents. So, I mean,
I'm
really,
not talking about human life surviving. I'm talking about destroying it with hypersonic winds. All right.
I'm talking about human life being destroyed.
Hypersonic, is that a technical term, Jacob?
It goes past.
Yet.
See, if this is a bullshit bracket, I can call you out on your bullshit too. You realize that, right?
Is that past Mach 1?
Yeah, I didn't know that they could do that. It's 200 miles an hour past the speed of sound.
What is Mach 1? I don't even remember.
I have no idea.
767 miles.
All right,
Yeah.
no, we're not there, but we're getting there.
We're a couple 600 miles per hour.
The winds are moving at the speed of light, guys.
It's pretty close. We're getting there.
We're on the same level,
Typhoons moving at relativistic speeds. Fucking head ass.
This is for me, Emily.
Yeah. I would fight back on your argument saying that shorter, flashier is not always better. So.
But again, it is short and flashy, but then also has the long-term effects of destruction. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the microwave, and then you take it out and put it in the oven.
That's not the best of both worlds.
How do you cook your food, Jacob?
You should know you live with them, Joseph.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right. All right. Let's open up questions.
All right, I have some questions right away. So Jacob, you mentioned how there's stages to typhoons, right? So there's like the first one, which is like 73 miles an hour, which is a measly.
I want to just clarify. I wouldn't say stages. I would say classifications.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So the first one starts off at a measly 10% of Mach 1, which is not even anywhere near hypersonic. 2, I think you said it was like 90 miles an hour, something like that, which is still
that'd be severe, yes.
pretty, not even close to hypersonic. And then your what did you call it? Your fucking
super typhoon.
That's
gonna
super
be,
typhoon.
120 miles per hour coming in.
Okay, yeah, even that. That's like a fifth of hypersonic. But that's not even my main point here. My main point is that you were dissing the fact that Emily's needed to have,
Different
four stages to go through. Except, what do you have to say about the Great Value brand of fucking Typhoon moving at 73 miles an hour, dude? I can fucking motorcycle faster than that.
Again, I clarified that the typhoons are classifications.
Yeah, so
where
what do
the
you-
droughts are in stages.
So what do you say
Takes
about all
way
the
too long to get to the
pussy
stage.
shit typhoons out there that are fucking?
Guess what? They're not technically called typhoons, so I don't care about them. Get out of here. All right, if you're not at least 73 miles per hour, get out of my sight.
See, okay,
So
but
you're
that's the
saying
thing.
they all
That's the
just
thing.
start at 200 miles an hour? They don't grow up to it. They just boom, nowhere. 200. Super
See, and
whatever.
also Jacob, the thing with that is Max could have been like, okay, I don't care about these fucking little piddly ass volcanoes. I'm talking about the super volcanoes, the ones that cause the most destruction. and that's basically what you're doing. I think that's a cop out. It's like, yeah, I'm only going to take the top 1% of this one classification of storms.
I'm taking when people hear the word typhoon, I'm laying down what they think of. All right, I'm not gonna bother them with the typhoons that don't really do much. I'm gonna tell them about the typhoons that do things, which is at least 73 miles per hour.
Yo, they're just thinking about off-brand hurricanes, all right? It's
They're not.
Great
they're so much
value
better than
looking
hurricanes.
ass.
They're so much better than hurricanes.
Anyway,
same
that's
shit,
my
different
Alright.
fear.
I've
That's
got
my
a question. I've got
Okay.
a question.
What
So
up?
both of your guys' things kind of talk about the human classification of like stages or whatever word you used. How do you guys feel about what makes it an actual natural disaster versus how humans classify it? So like there could be a drought, right? Or there could be a typhoon, but once it hits a certain thing, it's a human measurable thing. It's like, 70 miles per hour, it's a typhoon. Or 14 or 15 days or whatever is a drought. Do you guys think that that is accurate, or do you think that there's just like, that's just too much of a human element and that it's just an actual, like, at what level, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I'd like to say that pretty much at any level, droughts can be damaged. So like that human classification means nothing except for how bad the effects are to come. But like a few days without rain can be super devastating to crops. It's not going to devastate your infrastructure like 38 years would. Where I'd throw that back at like a small typhoon isn't going to do any damage, where like a small drought actually could do some damage. The classification means nothing for a drought. That's just time on a drought. Where in typhoons, it's going to be speed, and that's actually how much damage it can cause is based on that. So a small typhoon literally is a tropical depression.
Again, not technically a typhoon, but we'll pass over that. Also, just because you're throwing shade at like rain isn't gonna kill crops. No, the salt water will saturate the soil, or the wind literally ripping it out of the ground. But
But only if it's big enough to do so, which is by human classification.
yeah, and you know what? As I don't want to classify it unless it's destructive. All right, so I'm okay with the human classification because it's saying where you need to start caring about.
You're
these
just skimming the top, dude. You're just skimming the top. 10%.
I'm not skimming the top.
I only
Most
want 10%
typhoon
and
is
above.
like right in the middle. I'm talking if there's like 5
That
classes, well,
finer 10%.
I have a question for Jacob. You failed to mention arguably the most important type of typhoon, which is documented in the movie titled Sharknado. And I just want to know your thoughts and opinions on that, because
Okay,
it does
so
happen
as
in
someone-
the Pacific Ocean because it comes through California.
Well, then I'm confused.
According
Joseph,
to the
'cause
canon.
I have not seen Sharknado. I'm familiar with the franchise. I have not seen it, but I would argue that
Well,
Sharknado.
lucky for you, I have all 3 of them in the living room.
There's 5 of them, so
I have the first 3 of them in the living room. The good 3. They go downhill after.
The good 3. All right.
I feel like
Have you seen 4 and 5? They go rails.
You didn't even know 4 and 5 existed, so.
I meant the good.
Isn't one named
I have
after
seen
Star
4
Wars:
and
The
5.
Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Joseph, I would say that the marketing team kind of, went a little too crazy on this one because Sharknado is obviously playing off the word tornado, but tornadoes start on land. It
Yeah.
sounds like a typhoon situation, so I'm okay with it.
Most definitely a typhoon.
We
That's
get
why
some sharks involved. That's extra destruction. I'm a fan.
Okay.
That's badass.
All right. I'm just disappointed you didn't bring it up in your argument originally.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
update.
I've not had the
a
pleasure
real
of seeing
bullshitter would have.
There is 6 Sharknados.
Fuck!
There is.
Way to call me out on my bullshit.
There's
Yeah.
the Fourth Awakens. There is global swarming.
That's the
and
last
then there
Global
is
swarming.
no. Then there's the last Sharknado: It's about time.
That's the one I haven't seen. God, they're so good.
Fuck you, Gabe.
I have to get you back somehow.
Do we have any final thoughts or questions?
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah, I have one.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh.
so this is for both of you. What preventative measures can be taken to prevent your natural disaster?
Emily?
I did do some reading about stormwater capturing. It's really important for people to do, obviously, and keeping up your irrigation on farms. But there's literally nothing besides stopping global warming that we can do to physically prevent a drought. It's going to be proactive things. You can't do anything like passively to prevent them. It's all going to be stuff like in the future to help with the infrastructure effects. So nothing besides, maybe keeping us in social isolation for a little longer could stop some droughts.
Josh, typhoons cannot be stopped. All right, they are an unstoppable force. They are going to happen. All right, the only thing you can do is run away if you see it, but it's still gonna fuck up your house. All right. That's all I have to say about that. Joseph, let's go to you first on the vote.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to go with Jacob, and here's why. Emily, I loved your argument. I love your rebuttal, I should say. your argument was too structured for a good bullshit, in my opinion. Whereas Jacob came out with the passion and the heat, and he knew what he wanted out of the gate. Whereas when Emily was talking, it felt like an audiobook of or like an audio version of like a paper of a scholarly article, which is fine. I learned a lot. It was neat. However, it wasn't good bullshit. When the rebuttal came, it was good bullshit. Props to that. But I wanted to see that out of the gate. So for that, I'm going with Jacob because he had that.
Right. Respect. No hard feelings from last week. You know.
No, lots of hard feelings, but that's not mine.
Max, you're up next.
So I have two reasons for my vote. The first is somewhat similar to Joseph's. I felt that Emily's argument in the beginning was a bit similar to last week's with the history and things, and not that it was bad, like he said. It's just some of the same, and I'm looking for some bullshit, you know. And the second reason is typhoons are badass, so I'm going with Jacob.
My man, Max. My man. Sean.
All right, I gotta be honest. When I think typhoon, I think just a knockoff hurricane. And
Hell yeah.
Jacob, I don't know if you convinced me otherwise. So I think I might have to go with drought. Also, quick side note about droughts. Emily mentioned like some famous ones, and I read this paper in college that ISIS was like jump started by a drought in the Middle East, like specifically Syria, in like 2011, 2012, which is pretty interesting. So
I would have focused my
Emily
whole
has my vote.
argument around that had I known.
Yeah, sorry. I want to jump in. I gotta stay neutral.
That's all right. Hey, thanks, man.
Josh.
All right. When it comes down to it, this is a bullshit bracket. And Jacob, I feel like when the questions were thrown at you, you bullshitted them a lot better than Emily did. So I gotta go with you.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that.
Although,
Gabriel.
I did like your stuff, Emily.
So nice.
Josh trying to be as nice as he can be.
Yeah.
It's the
Josh ain't out here to make enemies.
Man, it's tough because both were really good, but I feel like I have to give the edge to drought just because the rebuttal was awesome. There's some good burns, and she saved him. That was smart. And on top of that, fuck, I totally lost my train of thought. Fuck. I don't know. I went with Emily. There's a whole reasoning.
No matter why.
But it was really close. Like I thought that both were good, but the whole long term thing, like when you put the long term effects side by side, I still feel like drought wins every time. And also, I just found that one interesting because I don't really ever think of droughts being like dangerous. I just know like the Dust Bowl's a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Typhoons, I'm like, yeah, that would suck.
The knockoff hurricanes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Dayton, you are the final vote.
I am the final vote. And I'm gonna have to go with drought because so Emily could have chosen. I'm not gonna just choose regular droughts. I'm gonna choose super droughts.
Oh my
And
god.
Jacob just freaking skimmed the top of the barrel. He just wanted the top 10% of tropical storms, okay? That shit ain't gonna fly with me. That shit ain't gonna fly. Not in the slightest.
All right. Well, the people in the chat are Emily's family. So let's
Yeah,
see
I
how
know.
they
That's
go.
what I was thinking too.
All right.
So
let's,
yeah, we go to the Twitch chat, which granted may be heavily biased in Emily's favor, but I'll take the results whatever they are.
all right. Let's see if anyone responds.
Yeah, I don't know.
How many
Yeah, it might be
viewers
kind of quiet.
I think there's only
I'm gonna check
one
it
other
out.
person.
I
Yeah, which is
exited out.
RJ.
RJ.
Just RJ.
It comes down to Emily's
Oh, God.
He could still vote against her though. Like
They could. They very well could.
They could. All right.
Very
So
well
we have one vote for Emily.
What does your parents say, Emily?
I was just texting them. Watch them vote against me.
Yeah, right.
Well, if they do, then what kind of tiebreaker are we gonna do then?
Flip a coin.
Well, if they vote against her, then Jacob wins, right?
Well, it depends
Yeah,
if we
'cause
count
you-
both parents as one or both
Oh, they're separate.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Okay.
No,
individual.
if we have
They're
Emily's
their own
brother, mom,
person.
and dad, that's 3 people. But I don't know if they're all
Okay.
the 3 watching right
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
they
be-
are all watching. Okay, well, my mom said Emily, of course, which was really sweet. So I texted my dad.
now. Well, if RJ,
Well, it's 2-1 regardless.
Emily,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So, you know what? This is biased as fuck, but I'll accept it.
Hey,
Emily-
Jacob, I had the bias last week and I still lost. So
True.
That's because
We won't say
the
why. I don't-
Goomba, the
Yeah, we
Goomba
don't, I don't wanna say
sway.
that. I don't wanna say
yeah.
that. All right, so it looks like our final will be Dayton versus Emily. And I was thinking about it last night, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. So next week we have the winners finals, the consolation finals. In order to fill out the podcast, I'm gonna throw in a third place game. All right, so that'll be me versus Josh going for third place.
All right.
So
What
we can
about the
fill up
losers
the
of the
hour.
losers?
Josh,
Should be like the first
fuck
round.
off.
I don't. My pride does not want that.
All I'm gonna say, Josh,
I
is
kinda
at
wanna
least
see
I'm
this.
gonna be here 2 episodes from now, and you're gonna be gone.
And then it's just
It's
gonna be us
just us,
fighting.
Maybe
for
they'll
honor.
replace you,
last
Gabe.
week.
Yeah, the
Dude,
winner replaces
Yeah.
him.
The loser gets voted off.
wait a second. Me and Joseph have to have a fight, like a live stream fight. Who gets to stay?
So as a final recap, we have next week we have the consolation winners, Sean versus Max. We have the third place match, Josh versus myself, and the winners finals, Dayton versus Emily. So rap versus history will win.
And we got the
Yeah.
spectators, Gabe and Joseph.
Yeah, the
I'll leave with
OG
some
members, dude.
Hot judging insights. I'm excited for it. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Insurance Unfiltered podcast. We're loving doing this bullshit bracket nonsense in the month of March. We hope it kept your mind off of the horrors of the world right now. And we hope to see you next week. We'll be posting on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Google. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at EWF Podcast, and follow us on Twitch at EWF_podcast. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.
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 Uh,
Peace.